Hi there, today we're going to see if we can fix what the careless courier dropped off. Welcome to the basement. Okay, a little bit of backstory before we begin today. A while ago I found this DuoDock for sale on eBay, and after a bit of bidding I was the successful bidder. And so I asked the sender, hey, could you please make sure it's packaged really well, because it was coming interstate. And he said, of course, and he showed me pictures, and it was indeed packed really well. And some weeks passed, and I wondered where it might be. And I had a look at the tracking, and for some reason it was on its way back to Melbourne from Perth. So I reached out to the courier company and said, hey, why was it in Perth? Because it was being shipped from New South Wales to Tasmania. It should never have gone all the way over to Perth. And they just gave me some sort of explanation about their hub and spoke business model. Now, I'm no courier expert, but if your hub is Perth, WA, I think you're doing couriering wrong. So anyway, they wouldn't accept that it had been sent to the wrong place. And then the package vanished for a while, and finally it showed up, and they couriered it with a special courier to my door because it was very late. And when I opened it, unfortunately, it was in pieces. Now, they denied the claim that I put in, saying that it was because of all the extra handling, but I do know, looking at the damage, it's been dropped or thrown pretty significantly to damage all the plastics inside, and of course it's had some sort of impact damage on the outside as well, which has caused the broken case. So yeah, needless to say, it was a pretty disappointing result. I did come to an arrangement with the sender. It wasn't really his fault. Like I said, he packed it really well, but no sort of packing could really prevent the kind of impact damage that it looks like it's had. But today we are going to see if we can actually get it somewhat working again. Now, I did buy it with an issue, like it had a power supply issue, which I knew about, but now we're going to have a bunch of cosmetic stuff we'll have to do to it as well. Now, for those unfamiliar with what a DuoDock is, it's essentially a really fancy docking station for Apple's Powerbook Duo line of computers. The idea being you could have this perhaps in your office, and you could take your computer home, nice and portable, do some work at home, come back into the office, plug the computer in. Yes, the whole computer plugs into this dock. And you get access to a few upgraded features, like an extra hard drive. You have a new bus slot in there. You have a floppy drive, network connection, more video, memory, that sort of stuff. So it turns your portable, ultra portable laptop into a proper desktop machine just by plugging it in. So cool idea. And I've actually made a video on another one of these that I've got. I've got a later model DuoDock. So you're welcome to have a look at that if you want to know a bit more about Apple's DuoDock line. But for now, this video is going to be about whether we can get this thing working at all. Might just start out having a quick look around the machine, just in case there's something I've missed. Oh, I can hear things rattling inside already, so that's not a good sign. On the side here, we've got the floppy drive. So that was still very much in use when these computers were around. And on the back, the I/O is fairly comprehensive. Well, I mean, it's desktop level, I suppose. So you've got your modem port there. You've got your audio in and out. You've got a SCSI port there for hooking up external SCSI devices. You've got your network, printer, and modem, and then you've got an external display support here. So this actually has a bit more video RAM inside of it, so it can display higher resolution when you plug a monitor in here. And you've got an ADB port here on the side, next to the power button. Of course, your power down below, and of course a pass through for the monitor as well, which is quite convenient. So quite a good desktop machine. But without a CPU, obviously. That was controlled by the laptop itself. Now, one thing that this particular DuoDock has, which my other one doesn't, is it's got the math coprocessor here, which allows for the 68030 and lower to have a bit more performance. Once you get up to the 68040 and beyond that into the PowerPC chips, they don't need the math coprocessor anymore, so that the later model DuoDock did away with it. Yeah, otherwise it's pretty much the same as the other DuoDock I've got. I think we should open this up and just have a look inside to see if there's any damage done further, and we'll have a look at the lid as well. So we are going to have to strip this right down. I need to get right down underneath here to get to the power supply, which I've been told isn't working. I haven't plugged it in to check, and maybe I'll do that first. But I also want to check for more damage because of the way that this thing was handled. Before I do that, let's have a look at the lid, because that's where most of the damage has occurred so far. Oh, here's some more pieces of plastic. So this is the lid. It sits on top of the machine like so, and it's got its little like VCR-like flap to push the computer in. Now that flap's starting to fall off, so it's broken its little plastic rivets down here. This bar, this is how I know it was dropped, because all of the plastic fittings on this lid have all been popped off, so it's been dropped. Obviously the lid's around the other way, and the weight of all this metal has just broken all the plastic as it's impacted the ground. So yeah, so that has to be reattached somehow into those broken plastic standoffs. That one's still on there. These metal brackets provide strength for the monitor when you sit the monitor on top. And of course we've got this shielding here, associated bits of paraphernalia. And the shielding goes somewhere in here, I'll figure it out, but again it's popped off all the little plastic rivets, so we'll have a look at if we can melt that back on. And these things, these are part of the eject mechanism. So you push it in, and when you want to eject the laptop, you push that button and the laptop slides out gracefully, well it's supposed to. So these should be sitting in here somewhere, somehow. Not sure, I have to work that out. So yeah, there's a bit to do on here. It's not terribly hard except for the corner that really got smashed. So unfortunately I'm not going to be able to fix that. I've got some of the grill here, but yeah, I mean maybe I could glue that bit on, but I'm not quite sure what to do there. The other thing is that this corner was smashed as well, which is a shame. So that's the eject button mechanism goes in here, so that's fallen out, and yeah, I'm not quite sure what to do there either. I mean, if anyone's watching this and you've got a spare DuoDock 2 lid which you can send me, that would solve a lot of the problem. But yeah, that's the lid, so I'll look at doing that later. I want to have a look at the actual main machine first and see if we can get it working. If we can't get it working, then it's kind of a wasted cause fixing up the other cosmetics, isn't it? Right, so let's start pulling it apart, I reckon. So before I do pull it apart, I'm just going to confirm it's not actually working. So if we apply some power, I don't think anything happens unless we connect the computer. So power's on, and here's a Powerbook 280, which if I slide in, the fan should start up and it should start booting the computer. Oh, I can smell something, so I'm not sure if I'm just imagining it. Better be safe than sorry. It did nothing when I pushed the laptop in, so I don't want to tempt fate. So I'll leave it out for now, and we'll pull it apart and have a look inside the power supply for any obvious points of failure there. Now I did just notice something inside the floppy drive tray here, so let me pull that out. Probably a good time to talk about our sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is a great place to go if you just enjoy making things. You can browse through their maker library and just pick something you like. You can order it straight from there and just have fun building it. So if that's your thing, then I would check out PCBWay. They do a whole lot more too. They do CNC machining, they do 3D printing, they do sheet metal fabrication, you name it. Whatever you need for your next project or prototype, PCBWay is the way to go. So thanks PCBWay for sponsoring this episode. Right, where's my screwdriver? Let's get disassembling. I've been struggling for a while. I did have to actually resort to the service manual, which I found online. There we go. A whole lot pulls forward and in theory just lifts out. Yeah, cool. There's the power supply. It's got held in place by these two plastic clips. Ow, I knew that would happen. Cool. And yeah, when you know what you're doing, these things come apart surprisingly easy. I think it's a pretty interesting design how you've got the fan, and half of the fan is for the power supply and the other half is obviously to cool down the rest of the dock. So that's the inside of our power supply. Now I'm hoping it's just maybe a capacitor that might have failed or a reefer in here. Now it's the standard disclaimer, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. This is a entertainment only channel. This is not a how-to guide channel, so be entertained but don't copy. See if I can get this grommet out. Get the wires out of the way. Nice. Now we just need to remove the circuit board from this case. Okay, the first culprit I'm going to suspect are these capacitors here, so I'm going to desolder them and test them. Well, it's quite stubborn, this one. Let's just try the braid method. Right, got them out. Now we're going to be looking for 330 microfarads. 296, not right, but it's not terribly wrong. Okay, 300 microfarads, so still not quite in spec. I've just started trying to desolder the very small capacitor here next to the one we just did, and I can smell more of that fishy smell, so I'm wondering if maybe this one is the issue. Oh, okay, no. Here we go. So we've got 100 microfarads. Okay, so maybe that one's not the issue, but I do certainly smell that fishy smell. So I've kind of got as far as I want to go with the desoldering of the caps. I can't find any replacements for these big ones locally, and I kind of just want to fix this today. So I'm going to put these back in for now. They tested okay, so I don't have any reason to believe that there's anything wrong with those. The small ones, on the other hand, were all over the place, and I've got plenty of those on hand. I also went down and bought another couple which I needed. And as far as these caps here, I'm going to stop desoldering them. These are all Nikon caps, and they're all pretty good quality, and the ones that have been taken off have been testing perfectly, so I'm just going to put them back in. That's the plan, and we'll see if it fixes the problem. Okay, I'm just soldering the last capacitor back onto the board, and hopefully that's going to result in a fixed power supply. Well, I'm just guessing really, I don't really know what I'm doing. Okay, I've put everything back together as best as I can, given things a little bit of a clean while I was at it. So I'm just going to leave the cover off the power supply for now to make sure it's working. However, I don't want to touch it, so I'll slide it underneath here. I've hooked the fan back up because the fan's sort of hopefully what's going to tell me if it's working, like the fan will start working. Moment of truth, plug it in. Let me try plugging in the laptop again. Yeah, it should be pulling that laptop in and then chiming, and the fan should be coming on. Okay, so whatever is wrong with the power supply is still wrong. So it might be those two big capacitors. I've been reading online that these power supplies fail and it's those larger capacitors, and even though they tested okay on my machine, maybe there is something wrong with them. I'll have a go at sourcing some of these over the interweb, and we'll cut back to when I've got them. Seems to be working, but I've actually tricked you. This is the power supply out of my other DuoDock, because I thought I should at least put that in here to make sure everything else is working, and it seems to be. It's pulled the laptop in, it's fired up, it's booting off the laptop's SCSI to SD that's got in there, and it's doing everything it's supposed to do. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's those capacitors in that power supply. This is the working power supply that I've pulled out of my working DuoDock, and this is the case of the one that we're fixing. And it's just interesting to note that this one's made in the USA, this one's made in Italy. But what I find most interesting is that there's a tested date on here of the 17th of April 1998, and the 1660 underneath that. And then on this one here, it's got a tested date of the 24th of the 6th, 1998, and the same 1660 underneath. So I'm not quite sure what that's all about. 98 is quite a few years after they made these, and they were both tested in 98. So whether there was a recall or maybe these are replacement power supply units, I'm not quite sure, but it's just strange that they would both have the same year date, even though these are sort of generations apart. So yeah, interesting one. So I'm back again, and I haven't bought any of these. The reason being is because I've been doing some internet research, and it turns out that the capacitors that I needed to replace, I've already replaced. The problem capacitors are where I found that fishy smell, with those two that I've done already. And they are replaced, and so it should be working. I have been checking around, and it looks like I've torn one of the pads when I've taken these big ones out. So there's traces on both sides of the board, and so I'm not getting continuity from one side of that hole to the other. It should actually pass through, so I'm going to have to try and fix that somehow and then get this soldered back in. Hopefully that's the issue. An issue that of my own making, unfortunately, but you know, that's just the way it is. So I have seen on YouTube people much smarter and more talented than I drilling these out, putting little rivets in there, hammering it down and resoldering it all together. There's no way I'm going to do that, nor do I have the equipment to do that. So I'm just poking a bit of capacitor leg from one side to the other. I'm going to solder it in place, and that should bridge the two. Okay, I've got them through. So let's solder that and see if we get continuity from the top to the bottom. And we do. That's a good noise. Right, let's try that again. Maybe that was the issue. I'm sort of running out of hope now. I'm just sort of clutching at straws. But yeah, it was definitely an issue, so maybe that was the problem. No. It's definitely making a ticking noise, which, according to all of the internet people, is those capacitors that I've already replaced. So unless I've torn another pad somewhere or made another error pulling off too many capacitors, so I'll keep on checking. Okay, I'm back again, and I've ruined the continuity because I'm in a different shirt, I know. But it has been a few days of me working on this and trying to figure out what has been going on. So I've got I'm not an electrical engineer, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying my best. But I did know that this power supply works. This is the working one out of the other dock that I've got. and this is the dud one down here. So I started pulling the components out and swapping them over, trying to find an error, what was going on. I was finding that I could find voltage fluctuations on the broken one, but there was just nothing on the output, whereas this had rock steady voltage in the different spots I was testing it, and of course it was getting me the correct output as well. So anyway, I've been swapping the components over. To no joy, nothing was changing, and look, if you go searching for the issue on the internet, you find heaps of posts about people saying, oh, it's capacitor like 24 or whatever, swap that out and that's the issue. And I've done that. There's a new one in there. It's still nothing, until I found one lone post of this poor guy from 2 years ago saying, hey, does anyone know what this diode is? Because his had exploded on his power supply and he couldn't read what it was. And so I thought, well, I've got my supplies apart. I'll answer this poor guy from 2 years ago and give him some photos of what I've found on mine. And then I thought, well, if his has exploded, maybe there's something wrong with mine as well. So in the interest of swapping more known working components to the dud machine, I unsoldered the diode and put it in this one. And now we're going to see if that's fixed the problem. It's my last, I don't know, I'm out of ideas. It's my last hurrah, I suppose. So anyway, let's plug it in. So that's all sitting there ready to go. The replacement diode is in there in a Powerbook. Hey, it works. So it was that diode the whole time. And look, this was a tricky one to diagnose because, like I said, everyone on the internet, every post, and there's quite a few of them, were all like, it's the capacitors, it's the capacitors. But that one guy, so I've answered his post and said, hey, yeah, this was my issue as well, in case there's other people that are going to encounter the same issue as these machines get older and stuff breaks on them. Cool, so if we turn it off and hit the eject button, look at that, perfect. So we'll get everything back together and see if we can fix a bit of that cosmetic damage. Here we have the top case, and it has been fairly damaged by the courier. This is the, I guess the good one that I've got as well. So essentially I just have to try and get all these parts back into it to make it look a bit like this one here. First step will be to get these bars back into place. The other thing that needs to get attached are these things here. These are like the little springs that help it eject. Cool, that works well. So these ones at the back here of these spring things, I think they were just locators, but now they're going to help secure it down. I just melt that down there, turn it into a blob, let it cool, it'll hold the back in place. Now in the middle here, these have broken off flush with the bottom, so I've got nothing really to melt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try these ridges on either side. I'm going to try and sort of melt them over just to kind of lock this tab into place. See if that works. So something like that. So if I do that on each side, I reckon that should be enough to hold the spring in place. Okay, great. They're all in place. It's not pretty, but no one's going to be looking in here. And it's only me that knows it's happened, and you, because you're watching. I've got a few of these screws, and I'm going to melt them into what's left of the plastic here, and it should be able to just be enough to hold this metal in place. So let's see if I can get enough heat into it with this soldering iron. Right, that's worked good. I'll let that cool off, and that should be a nice firm fit there. So I still have these plastic heads that snapped off originally. I might just see if I can melt them back in to the stump here. This is coming along quite nicely, so that bar's nice and strong. That's great. All the functional parts are back together with the exception of our eject button, which is a shame. I want to see if I can fashion maybe like a metal hoop just to stop the button from twisting down so I can actually push it. Okay, I didn't film it because it was a bit awkward, but I've got the paper clip in place. I put a little L on the bottom here just so that it would kind of have a bit more grip. So I've melted that into this broken off tab, and on the other side I did the same. I just put a little L on the bottom of the paper clip and melted it into the wall of the case, and I've looped it quite tightly over the switch. So now when I push the switch, it does what it's supposed to do, and it won't push up, it just pushes straight in like it's meant to. So it's actually worked really well. I'm pretty surprised, but happy because now I've got a working button again, even though all this plastic is missing. So yeah, that's a win. The last thing I'm going to do on this top case is try and fix some of this cosmetics. So I'm going to yeah, like melt this back together. So I've done the same trick. I've just melted some metal posts across all the cracks here, and hopefully when I pull the tape off, yep, it looks like it's probably fixed. Great, it's probably the strongest part of the whole case now where that metal goes across. I'm going to cut these pieces off here, just make this just a hole, and I might put some mesh or gauze over it from the inside perhaps. Okay, let's see how that looks on the other side. Well, I think it'll do the job. It'll stop bugs getting in there anyway, and still allow the airflow. And it's better than broken plastic, so pretty happy with that. Right, let's fire up the Duo. This one's still got its original hard drive in it. So while that's booting up, what I plan to do is to run a benchmark on here and see if when we chuck it into the DuoDock we get a little bit more performance. That's the idea. So it should go from laptop performance to desktop performance. Okay, I've run a benchmark on the system. So we've got a baseline. Okay, the tests have finished running. So here we have absolutely no difference in processor performance, whether it's in the dock or out of the dock. It's got a Motorola 68040 in it, and it doesn't seem to get any assistance from the DuoDock. I thought the floating point unit may have made a difference, but it turns out that the 68040 is not interested in the floating point unit, or it has its own built-in, I'm not sure, but it certainly didn't get any gains from the external floating point unit that's in this DuoDock, and that explains why they removed that unit from the later model DuoDock. Because of course the PowerPC has it built in, and you can see on the graph here, this is the base, like the slowest PowerPC I could match it up with, and that's off the chart. It's scoring a 10 where this is scoring a 0.14. So the other thing, we score slightly up in graphics, and that's really the only benefit you'd get from putting your 68040 into a DuoDock. So you get a 26% increase in graphics, and of course you get the higher res mode and more colors if you want to run a larger monitor like we are here. The other benefit, of course, with the DuoDock is that you can put a hard drive in here, and you can put some U-bus cards in here as well, so you can sort of flesh it out a bit more. Plus we've got all our cool ports and the floppy drive on the side to make things a bit easier. So that's the DuoDock 2 and the cautionary tale of a delivery gone wrong. I just don't understand why someone should come up with a courier company that just takes care of their packages. Wouldn't that be amazing? So we could get things delivered without it ending up in pieces everywhere. But this poor old DuoDock, unfortunately, will just never be the same. I've tried my best and it's working, and for that I'm grateful, but unfortunately, cosmetically, it's not ever going to be a showpiece, is it? Well, never mind. Well, you've been in the basement. I hope you have a great day.